In the plant world, there is a curious phenomenon. A farmer can take a cutting from a vibrant, healthy plant, a clone, and it will grow. That clone can then be cloned, and that clone cloned again. But over successive generations, something happens. The plants grow weaker. They become more susceptible to disease. They lose their vitality. This is called clonal fatigue. The genetic material is copied perfectly, but with each copy, something intangible is lost. The resilience, the robustness of the original living root system, the source. This isn't just botany. It feels like a precise metaphor for what can happen in the spirit, in our ideas, and in our communities. We take a living insight, a powerful experience, a revolutionary faith, and we clone it. We turn it into a doctrine, a rigid belief, a dogmatic reaction. And over generations, whether of a culture or of our own mental habits, that cloned idea grows weak, brittle, and loses its power to truly nourish. This episode is about recognizing that spiritual fatigue and finding the way back to the living root. We see this everywhere. A spiritual teacher has a direct mystical experience of unity. It's alive, ineffable, transformative. The teacher shares it in stories and metaphors, pointing to the moon. That's the first cutting, still vital, still connected to the source experience. But then, disciples take those stories and codify them into rules. The second generation debates the exact meaning of the metaphors. The third generation enforces the rules and punishes those who question them. The living experience of unity has been cloned into a rigid dogma. The institution may grow, but the spiritual vitality within it weakens. People feel weary, going through the motions that once carried life, but now feel empty. That's clonal fatigue in a tradition. The form is there, but the life force, it's diminished, less credible. This happens within us too. We have a moment of profound personal insight, a breakthrough in therapy, a creative epiphany, a moment of forgiveness that releases an old pain. That feeling is the living root. But then the mind, wanting to secure that good feeling, tries to clone it. It creates a rule. It must always think this way, or an identity. I am now a healed person. The next time a similar challenge arises, we don't meet it freshly. We reach for the clone, the memory of the insight, and try to apply it like a prefabricated solution. It doesn't fit perfectly. It feels forced. We feel a sense of failure and fraud. That's clonal fatigue in the psyche. We are trying to replay a recording of aliveness instead of tuning into aliveness of the present moment. The fatigue manifests as rigidity. A cloned idea has no adaptability. It can't respond to new soil, new climate, new questions. It can only repeat itself. Dogma is the ultimate rigidity. A cloned idea that has forgotten it is a clone and now claims to be the original root. It defends itself with fear and aggression because deep down it senses its own brittleness. A living root is flexible, exploratory, drawing nourishment from the rich, complex, and ever-changing soil of actual experience. A clone exists in a sterile, controlled medium of pure ideology. The enlightened masters were constantly battling clonal fatigue. They saw how their teachings were at risk of becoming brittle copies. Jesus didn't come to found a new cloning lab for religious laws. He spoke of a living water and condemned the whitewashed tombs of empty ritual. The Buddha refused to appoint a successor or create a rigid dogma, famously saying his teachings were a raft to cross the river, not to be carried on your back forever. They were master gardeners, always pointing disciples back to the direct experience, the taste of the fruit, the feel of the soil, not the textbook description of the plant. So how do we break the cycle? The answer is implied in the metaphor itself. We must return to the living root. But how do we find it when we're surrounded by generations of clones? The first step is to notice the fatigue, the feeling of dryness in a practice that once felt nourishing, the defensiveness that arises when a belief is questioned, the exhaustion of maintaining a perfect self-image. These are the symptoms telling us we are consuming cloned material. The next step is to put down the clone and look for the root. In a spiritual tradition, this might mean looking past the accumulated doctrine of the original, paradoxical, and often shocking words of the founder. It means seeking the experience, not just the explanation. In our personal lives, it means questioning our own rigid reactions. Is this how I truly feel now? Or am I just replaying an old cloned response from the last time I felt hurt? It means daring to have a fresh experience, to meet this moment without the filter of the last one. This is an act of courage. It means leaving the apparent safety of the cloned greenhouse for the unpredictable wilds of direct, unmediated life. But it is the only way to true vitality. We stop trying to be a perfect copy of our past enlightenment, of our ideal self. We become gardeners of our own spirit, tending the living root of our present moment awareness, and from that root, new growth can emerge, adaptable, resilient, and authentic. Our ideas become supple vines, not brittle sticks. Our faith becomes a living relationship, not a rehearsed script. We exchange the fatigue of maintaining clones for the generative fatigue of a life fully lived, constantly drawing nourishment from the deep, dark, rich soil of what is real, right here, right now, before the first cut is ever made.